If you want to turn your Windows PC into a retro gaming system, then RetroBat could be what you're looking for. So let me show you how to download, install and set it all up. Hi and welcome to Bytes and Bits. If you're setting up a retro game system, and especially if you want to use that as an actual arcade cabinet, you're going to need a really good front end that's going to provide a full screen interface with lots of fantastic graphics and sound and videos and so on. And if you're doing that on Windows, if you've been watching my channel, you'll know that one of my preferred ones is Launchbox and its premium brother, Big Box, and that's actually running on this machine behind me here, and that gives a really good arcade cabinet feel to your retro games collection. But there is an alternative which is actually as good in my opinion, and that's RetroBat. And that's what we're going to be having a look at in today's video. What it is, how to install it, how to get everything set up, how to add themes to it to make it look spectacular, and then how good it is. So let's have a look at RetroBat. So probably the best place to start is to actually have a look at RetroBat in action. So RetroBat is what's known as an emulation front end. So it allows you to run all of your retro games with a great looking, user-friendly interface, rather than having to use some simple menu list or even having to drop down to a terminal command line. So it uses Emulation Station for the core functionality, but then adds a whole range of extra helper code to transform this experience into a full retro gaming system. Now, Emulation Station largely provides the user interface, so if you've used it on other systems, you'll be very familiar with the feel of it. So it also allows you to use themes that completely transform the look and layout of the application, and these can all be downloaded for free and swapped around at will. So for example, the theme that's currently on screen is actually the default when you first set up RetroBat, and it's not massively impressive. So I've downloaded a few, and if I go into the settings menu, I can very easily just swap that across to this glass theme, and instantly our application takes on a brand new life. So RetroBat also has a built-in scraping system that allows it to download images and videos of all your games for use in these game selection screens. So as we navigate around, you'll see lots of images and videos of the games that we've installed, so you can get a better feel for what each game is about and whether you want to have a go at it or not. Now, on the emulation side, RetroBat makes it very easy to get your games up and running. So as usual on these systems, RetroArch handles the main emulation jobs using its vast array of libretro cores. But again, RetroBat will download and install all of these for you as you need them. If you do decide for some reason that you need a standalone emulator, maybe you need some more performance or the standard ones aren't working quite as well as you want, again, RetroBat will come to your rescue. It's able to download and install and set up a large number of emulators such as DuckStation or Dolphin and so on. So all you need to do is to specify the emulator you want to use for a particular system and then try to run one of those games. RetroBat will recognise this missing emulator and download it and install it for you and connect it up to your game library. So that's a quick overview of what RetroBat has to offer. As you can see, it looks great and it works really well. So let's see how we can get this all installed and set up on your Windows PC. To install RetroBat, we need to go to the RetroBat website at retrobat.org. Then just follow the download link. Now, RetroBat does require a couple of dependencies, so we need to have DirectX and Visual C++ redistributable package installed on our computer. Now, if you're not sure if you have those or not, then just simply go on to the link provided. And on this GitHub page, you'll find some links to those dependencies down here. So just click through for them. You only need to have one of the Visual C++ packages and then DirectX installed. So just click through from there. you'll get a download link and then just install those packages. So once you're happy that you've got the dependency set up, we then need to download the RetroBat application itself, and that will take you through to this itch.io download, where the developer, of course, is asking for a small donation just to help support his work. So if you can afford that, please do, because that will just keep this project running. But we can, of course, just simply skip that section and go to the downloads. And here you just simply need to download the version that relates to you. So I would advise then just going for the latest stable release. So let's download that, and then we're just going to save that onto our computer. So once that's downloaded, we simply need to run the installation package. So just running through the options and agreeing to the license. Then we need to specify a folder where we're going to install RetroBat. Now, I would always advise you to install it in its portable format. So we're going to put absolutely everything that goes together with RetroBat inside one folder. And that just means then that we can actually copy that installation to another drive or put it on a USB drive and take it with us. It just makes everything a lot easier to move around. So I'm going to put it in a RetroBat folder on one of my drives. I'm just going to come across onto my drive E, and I'm going to put in a folder called RetroBat. And then it will start to extract itself and install all the files it needs into that location. So once that's installed, we can let it create a shortcut. So then just make sure you have your game controller attached, and we can start the application. There we are into RetroBat. So when you first boot up, if you've got your game controller in, RetroBat does do a pretty good job of finding that and setting it up for you. Now, if that hasn't happened and you can't use your controller, then you can still use your mouse and access the menus. So the first thing to do then is to go into your menu. And even if your controller is working, I would advise you go through this process as well, just to make sure that everything is set up correctly. So if you go into controller settings, we can then go to controller mapping, and then we can go into the mapping itself. So what we do here then is you can see that it has detected that I have a gamepad connected. So I simply hold the button down on my gamepad, and it takes me in now to the mapping system. And again, you can see it's giving a little diagram as to which buttons you're going to be mapping. And these are the sort of standard Xbox style controller buttons. So you simply just press and hold the button that relates to that until it's recognized. So if I go to my south button, you can see it's recognized that. And then it's just a matter of going through all of them in turn. When you get to the hotkey button, now this is a button which is going to give you access to the menus and so on while you're actually in a game, and you'll need this to be able to get out of a game. So the recommended button for this is the select button on your controller if you have one, but you can really select anything you want. So I'm just using select, and then we should find that our A button, or whatever you've selected for A, should work okay now. And you should now find that your game controller should all be set up. We've got our B button takes us back, our A button takes us in, and so on. So next we need to get our game set up. So again, if I go to use my start button and then come down to quit, that should take me out of RetroBat. To get your game set up, you will of course need some game files. Now obviously I'm not allowed to tell you exactly where to get hold of those, but do have a look on the internet. They're not that hard to find. If you are having any problems, do pop along to my main bytesandbits.co.uk website, and there is a page specifically for this video, and I'll put a link to that in the description down below. And on there, of course, I can be a bit more precise as to where to get hold of these files. But the files that you download then, you do need to make sure that they are, of course, in the correct format. So if I come into my PlayStation files here, you'll see that I am using .q files with an associated .bin file. And to make sure that they are the correct format, if we go across to the wiki.retrobat.org page, this tells you all about RetroBat and how to sort of set it up and work it and so on. But there also is down the bottom here a section on each of the different consoles that it supports. So if we come into PlayStation, you'll see a little bit about the PlayStation. It will list you the different emulators that you can use inside of RetroBat, and then the file extensions that those will accept. So we have here our .q extension, which of course will then pick up on the .bin file as well. So back to our files then. So I have a number of folders here with my game files in them. So if we have a look at the actual RetroBat installation, so I'm just going across to the folder I installed RetroBat into, and you can see we have a number of folders there for various bits of information, along with the RetroBat executable itself. So the one we're interested in, of course, is our ROMs folder, and if we have a look inside there, you'll see that the RetroBat installation has created a folder per system that it emulates. So again, if I have a look inside the Atari 7800 system, you'll see that there's nothing in there yet. So this is where we need to drop our game files. And that's why whenever I was saving my game files, I named them into specific folders. So what that lets me do is I can simply just select all of these. I can then copy them, take them across to my ROMs folder, and just paste them in here. And they will then integrate all of those files into the correct folders in my RetroBat installation. So you should see now inside my PSX folder, if I come across into ROMs and PSX, you should see that my files are all now in there. Obviously, if you don't give them the correct folder names, you'll have to copy them across individually into each folder. But we now have all of our actual game files installed. One last thing before we move out of here. Some of the systems do require BIOS files. Now, RetroBat isn't able to supply those due to copyright reasons. So again, you're going to have to find these separately. And the thing to look for on the internet is a Batocera BIOS pack. A lot of these emulators use the same sets of BIOS files. So if you download a set for one, and Batocera seems to be the easiest one to get hold of, that will work for all the rest of them. So if you come across back then to the RetroBat installation, so we're now in my RetroBat installation, and come back out of there. So this is the root folder that we installed RetroBat into. You'll see that there is a BIOS folder there, along with our ROMs folder and our saves folder. And if I open up the archive file for my Batocera ROM pack, you'll see that we do have those same folders here. So inside each of these folders then are the actual files that we need. So if I come across here, if I then grab hold of those three, and then I need to extract those, so I'm going to just drag them and putting them across into RetroBat and drop them into the root folder in my RetroBat installation, that should then integrate all of those files into the correct folders inside here. So once that's all done, we should be able to see our BIOS file sitting in here. So again, these are the BIOS files for various consoles, and that should now be everything set up. So we've got all of our game ROMs put into the correct folders, we've got all our BIOS ROMs set up, so we shouldn't have any problems then. Any games that we want to run should now run on the system. So let's jump into RetroBat and get those games set up. So in RetroBat, if you've restarted RetroBat, it will then recognise your new games. And you can see here I have my Nintendo 64 games all logged in, and so on. If you have put the games in while RetroBat was running, then you will need to refresh your list. So if you ever find games aren't showing up, we simply need to go into our Start menu, go to our Games settings, and then update our games lists, and that will then of course read any new games that you have installed. So we can simply select any of our systems here, and we'll go in and we can see now we have a list of games that we have just loaded in. At the moment, obviously, we haven't downloaded any sort of box art and images and so on, so we're getting quite a plain user interface. But the actual game should work. So if I select Aladdin, we should find that that boots up and runs. And then we have Aladdin up and running, and as you can see, it automatically adds a nice SNES bezel, so that it just makes our system just look that little bit neater. And there we have the game all running as it should do. So to get out of a game, this is where our hotkey button comes in. So our hotkey button, it was our select button, unless you've chosen something different. So if I hold that down, and then the start button should be the control to exit out of a game. And that should then take us back to our RetroBat interface. So we now have our games working, but we need to fix the interface so that we actually have some nice artwork to display our games. So RetroBat has a built-in scraper that will use a number of online databases to go and find some images and videos and box art and so on. So let's have a look at how we use that. Now the scraper does work for the area that you're currently looking at. So if we use the scraper from within the Super Nintendo area, then that will scrape for our Super Nintendo games. So we want to have a look at all of them. So we're going to go back up one level, and at this point our scraper will now automatically start scraping for all of our systems. So if we go into our menu and come down to scraper, the RetroBat is able to link to a number of systems. So you can see if we go into the scrape from, there are a few different ones here. Now some of these, so Screen Scraper is probably the best one to go for, but that does require you to register. So if you go to screenscraper.fr, you'll be able to register for free on there. Now a free account gives you a limited amount of download capability, or you can buy one of their packages which lets you then of course download lots more. The other ones, I know the arcade database is free, and I think the other two are as well, but obviously they have limited downloads and they're not as complete in their databases. So I'm going to use Screen Scraper because I have got a registered account for that. So if I select that one, we then need to go into the scraper settings, and from scraper settings we can then decide what we want to download. So we're going to have a look here. We can specify what sort of image source we want, what sort of box art we want, and so on. Then other information as well. We can try and get hold of a video, some fan art, a bezel to work when we play the games, and so on. If you do need to register for an account, there will be an option down here to enter in your username and password. And again, I've already done that. So if we come back out of there, we can then say what we want to scrape for. So we want to just get any missing media files. If I want to ignore any recently scraped files, so again, I can set that. So again, I don't want to ignore anything. So I'm going to say no, don't ignore anything. And then systems included, we can come in here and we can say what systems we want to scrape for. So usually you would leave them all ticked. I'm just going to come down here and just scrape for one just to sort of speed the process up a bit. So I'm going to select none. I'm going to say Atari 7800. Then we're going to come back out of here. And then I'm just simply going to say scrape now. And that should then start the scraping process. And we should see that happening up in the top corner there. And I'll just let that run through and see what we come up with. Okay, so once the screen scraping has, or it's not the screen scraping, the image scraping has finished, we need to come up and go back to our game settings, and we need to update our game lists to get those images registered in the system. So if I go across now to my Atari 7800, we should hopefully have some artwork sitting in there. So let's go across, and if I can find it, he says. So Atari 7800, if I go in there, we should now find we have our game display in there and little videos that will play to just give a little view of that game. So we can sort of see what our game looks like if we want to go and have a go at that. Okay, so on this scraping process, do be aware that it's not a perfect process. So as you go through, you may find that not all your games actually come across. You may have to try a couple of times to get them. And obviously if you hit your download limits, then you will have to wait until that refreshes or pay for one of the download packages. But as you go through then, you will eventually then, as you go through and scrape over a number of periods, you will eventually get to a stage where you have all of your games nicely logged and catalogued here with images and videos. So we're able to play games and make our interface look a bit better. But sometimes we will want to play systems using a specific emulator. Either the default one isn't working very well, or we want to use one to get better performance, or whatever reason. So let's have a look at how we do that. And I would use the PlayStation as an example. So if I come into my PlayStation, so we can see we have our game sitting out here. But if I want to look at how that is played in the system, I can use the options menu down the bottom with my select button. And if I come in here, I can go down to Advanced Systems Options, and you can see here that we have various bits of setup that we can use, and one of those is the emulator that we're using. So if we look at emulator, at the moment that's set to auto, and usually that will use a libretto core inside RetroArch. So if we select that option, you can see there are a number of different options that we can use in here. So say we wanted to use the DuckStation as a standalone emulator within RetroBat. Now, one of the good features of RetroBat is that it is actually able to download, install, and set up these standalone emulators all for you. So we're going to select DuckStation, and we're now going to come back out of here. I'm now going to try and play this game. And we should find that it's coming up saying that DuckStation is not installed, and it's offering now to install that for us. So of course we can just simply say yes, and that then should get everything set up automatically. So that's all set up, and hopefully now that should let us play that game using DuckStation. And there we have our game now running full screen mode in DuckStation. So all the controls, of course, for getting in and out of games will be the same in this one. So if I just press my select key and start, that should take me back out of here and back into RetroBat. So that shows you RetroBat helping you get your standalone emulators all set up and ready to go. So really the last thing I want to go through in this video is how we can make the whole system look a bit better. So at the moment we have a theme, which is sort of the general sort of look of this interface, and that is the basic theme. So we can actually change those, and there's a very large number we can choose from. So again, if we go into our settings menu and come down to our updates and downloads section, there's a number of things that we can do in here. One of them is, of course, to check for updates for the actual main system. But we can also then look at themes. So if we go into themes, so we can see that here we have a large number of different themes, and this gives you a little sort of preview on the side there as to what it will sort of look like. And you can see there's a whole range of them in here. It will also tell you the download sizes for them, and you can see here those are listed out there. So again, if we want to install a theme, we can just simply select it and install it. And you can see up in the top corner then it will download that theme. And I've chosen a small one here, so it will come down very quickly. It will extract that, and that then now is available for us to use. So we can see all the ones which we have installed by moving across to the right to our Install tab. And there you can see the one that I've just downloaded, the art book next, plus a couple more that I've downloaded as well. Now, when we download themes, all that's happening is it's copying the themed information into a folder. So if I have a look on the RetroBat installation, we can go into the Emulation Station folder, and then Emulation Station again, and we'll see a Themes folder. And inside there, you'll see the various themes inside their folders. So some themes you can't download directly through RetroBat, but you can then download them as a folder and just simply put them inside this folder inside your RetroBat installation, and then those themes will be available to you. So let's come back out here. Okay, so let's see how we can actually get one of these installed and running on our system. So we download them and install them from our themes downloader, but we don't activate them from here. So we need to back out of here to our main menu and go up to our user interface settings, and there we can set our theme. So if I select that option, you can see there's the themes that we have available. So I can swap across and activate the Touch of Glass theme and select that. And then if I come back out of here, that will then implement that. And there you can see we've now changed across into this Touch of Glass theme. So if I come back out of here, we'll see now that our main system display is a lot different. So we can move up and down here to our various systems. And you can see we now have a really, well, I find it quite an impressive interface for us. If we then go into a game, into a console, or Atari 7800, so we know we have those media files downloaded, you can now see we have our 3D box art showing, our little video preview, and we can then on the right hand side you can see our list of games, and we can then just simply flip through them and find the one that we want to play. So that is using themes to really spruce up the entire look of our system. So we do have a full screen retro gaming system now. And again, a lot of people do use this then for their retro gaming arcade machines, actually set them up and run them as a proper sort of cabinet, arcade cabinets. So that's pretty much RetroBat all set up. You can play games, you can install your emulators, you can install themes, and you can make it look like a really fantastic retro gaming center. So I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do click that like button and subscribe to the channel for lots more gaming, coding and making tutorials. I look forward to seeing you again in another video very soon, and bye for now. For more games programming, electronics projects and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel and visit my website.